Welcome everyone to our October meeting. It's hard to believe that it's October already, although the leaves are starting to turn and it's getting a little cooler outside, which is it's been very pleasant of recent, very, very pleasant. Love being outside in this weather, walking, biking, just enjoying the out of doors. And I hope you all are getting to do that as well. We have several guests with us today. I'm very excited about that. We have Mac Lyerly, who has been showing up regularly to our meetings. So I'll call him out. Today we've got George Shaw. I'm saying it wrong, aren't I? Shaw. So George has joined our advocacy work group and has attended some of the meetings with the council members. So he's doing quite a bit of contributions to our committee. So thank you, George, for that. We have Richard Sebastian back, and he's been attending our meetings quite regularly as well. And he is participating on the education committee. We have Kyle Laird, who is with PART, and we have Maddie, I'm forgetting your last name right now. Burgess, thank you. With our transit system. So thank you all for being here as guests. Do any of you want to share anything with us? Okay, not hearing anything. We'll move straight into our guest speaker, which I am very excited to introduce. Our guest speaker today is Daniel Carter. I met Daniel by attending the executive committee meetings for the Governor's Highway Safety Program. Daniel is a traffic safety specialist in the traffic safety unit for the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Daniel compiles all the information and data that we have used in the Governor's Highway Safety Program. He identifies and pulls out all the information of where, why, what safety issues exist, and that helps everyone to create strategies for improvements. I was thrilled when I called Daniel a week or two ago and asked him if he could come to our meeting and compile information on Forsyth County and Winston-Salem, and without hesitation, he said, yeah. So I was elated, and I am very excited to introduce him. I don't know if it's self-proclaimed or if he has been titled this, but he is known as the data wrangler. But he is going to share statistics with us, and I hope all of you will enjoy, well, we may not enjoy it, but I hope that it will make us smarter and know more about what goes on with the crashes that happened here in Forsyth County and Winston-Salem. So Daniel, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thanks. Thanks, Carol. Yeah, I hope to bring some data to you today. That is what I do. And Data Wrangler was originally applied to me by my boss and colleague over here, and that is a lot of what I do, is just work in data. We here at the Traffic Safety Unit of NCDOT are using the crash data collected by all the law enforcement agencies, and we're looking at that. We're doing analysis with that for our safety projects to kind of direct where are we going to put our funding, and we're making that available to parties around the state, whether it's cities, counties, MPOs, RPOs. There's researchers that we feed data over to. We've got other units, even just within NCDOT, we're sending that to. So hopefully it's being used in a lot of good ways to inform our projects and try to make roads safer, cut down on the fatalities and serious injuries, which is really what we have our eye on here. So yeah, this is hopefully something that'll be applicable. I've pulled together some data for Forsyth County, and we can kind of talk through that. This is pretty informal. I'm just going to be splashing a bunch of graphs up there. We can talk about them. If you've got other questions, I'm happy to try to answer them if possible. But I've got kind of two resources. So I'm going to start out with the first one here. Give me just a second while I pull that up. Right. So this is you're kind of actually getting a limited time preview. You can sneak peek of actually a dashboard I've been working on this week to put together, which is going to be something that we use to let really anybody be able to just pull out, select some statistics of crashes in North Carolina for a specific area. Could be an MPO or an RPO, could be a county or a city, and be able to see the data from that particular area in an aggregate sense. These will be counts, or as you can tell here, lots and lots of graphs trying to show what the trends have been looking like, that kind of thing. So on the left-hand side, I've sort of pre-selected it for the portion of the data that I wanted to show today. So this is going to be a 4-year period starting in 2021 through the end of 24. Kind of keeping us clear of some of the COVID period weirdness in the data. There was a lot of unusual types of numbers we were seeing in 2020. It started to level out more in 21, all the way to our last full calendar year that's here. And I've filtered this down to just look at the numbers in Forsyth County. So that's what we're looking at here, just to give you the context. And so there's quite a bit, and I'm aware of that. I'll try to talk through a few of these things. So on the left-hand side, we have more of the higher level general numbers. We get total crashes, and so this is any crash that's reported, as you can imagine, a lot by the Winston-Salem Police Department, but also the smaller towns and Highway Patrol that would be on the more rural and freeway areas there. Total fatalities and total serious injuries, and this is the total from this 4-year period. Okay. Top graph showing just all crashes that have occurred. The one underneath that showing fatalities. And this, like I mentioned, fatalities and serious injuries is really where we're focusing our energies to prevent the most serious kinds of injuries that occur. So we see here, and I'll let you kind of expand that just so we can take a look. This is showing a month by month total. So hovering on this would show April 2023, 9 fatalities resulting from crashes. And this is fatalities in terms of numbers of people that were killed as a result of some kind of traffic crash. On the right side, you can see the trends in specific types of crashes. And so, for example, up at the top there, the speed-related crashes. And I'll be kind of talking through some specific statistics about pedestrian and bicycle crashes, because I know this group is interested particularly in that. So I'll be getting to that in just a second. But these are some kind of more general level speed-related or unbelted driver, which is still a huge issue. Alcohol, still a huge issue. And some other ones, as you can see down there. So I'm just going to kind of hover on this because I know it's a lot, and you might be, I don't know, eyeballing some of that. You can see certain things with the month-to-month trends. Motorcycles certainly have a sort of seasonal pattern to that, that type of crash, because that's when people are riding motorcycles, presumably during the nice weather. Any questions I could answer before I look at some of the more pedestrian and bicycle focused statistics? I see a hand flash by. I don't really get to see who that was, though.
I had tried to press the button. It's late in the day. I'm wearing out. Thank you, Daniel, for joining. 2 questions. One, the y-axis on the unbelted driver, what would that number relate to? I don't see anything. Just says 0.
Can't really see the number there. That's the problem when you work with this limited real estate here on the screen. Yeah, so you're looking at probably averaging somewhere in the 30s, low 30s.
I wondered that, because that's pretty different based on the different categories. And then what's considered a serious injury?
Yeah. I wish I had the wording up here. So general overview of what police officers do when they assess both the crash scene overall and the individual people involved. They are applying their take on what the severity of the injury is. And so there's 3 levels of when we speak of non-fatal, so there's the killed, which the highest injury severity level, but then there's A, B, and C, which are the injury levels. A being the most serious, we would call serious injury. So there's a paragraph of wording that goes with that. I mean, but we're talking about broken bones and internal injuries, and the most serious kinds of injuries that can occur. And then there's B, which is, I think, moderate, and there's some wording that goes with that, and C, which is the most minor kinds of injuries. So we're talking more sort of scrapes and bumps and bruises at that level. And then there's quite a number of crashes that don't result in someone being injured, or at least injured as assessed by the officer. We just call those, property damage only, fender bender, that kind of thing.
And so there could be an instance where the officer looks at the person and without EMS there or whatever, thinks, okay, this is a minor thing. And then the day later they go to the hospital and have hemorrhage in their brain or something terrible.
Oh, yes.
So that wouldn't be captured. So it is up to the officer's judgment.
This is right. This is on the scene, a police officer making the best assessment he or she can do at the time. But yeah, I mean, it is a known and a recognized thing that, this is just an assessment from someone who has some medical training probably, but is not a doctor. And you can certainly have mismatches. If there's a lot of bleeding from maybe a scalp wound or something that's actually not a serious thing, but it looks serious, you can kind of get it overrated. Or if there's an internal injury that's not obvious, they can rate it low, but it's actually, like you say, quite high. So yeah, there is some play in this data here.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
When it says trucks involved, is it like semi trucks or?
Yep, we're talking commercial motor vehicles, the heavy trucks, if you want to call it like that. So yeah, your 18-wheelers, not your Amazon delivery trucks, but more the large trucks.
Okay. And older drivers, is that 65 and older?
Yes.
And teens just represent 16, 17, 18.
15 through 19.
19.
Yeah. So that would include those who don't have full licensure, the 15-year-olds.
Right. Thank you.
And that was actually something I noted to my colleague today, is that I need to have a little hover or something to say, what does truck involved mean, and what is teen and older and all that. Yeah, that'll be something I add to this. Okay. Unless you want to hang out here, I'm going to flip over to more pedestrian bicycle related things, but we can certainly come back if we need to. All right, I'm going to go full screen on this. Just one second. There we go. All right. So this is, and I'm terming it here, non-motorist. We have shifted our terminology. We are keeping, and the reason the reason this is a separate kind of data set here with different graphs. This is actually coming from a non-motorist crash database that we maintain, which is a standalone separate database from the overall statewide crash database. And the reason we do that is because we do more with it. We go into each of those crashes and we code more data about the pedestrian and bicycle crash than is available in the overall database. We are doing things like investigating exactly where the crash happened and finding out the lat and long coordinates for those so that we can geolocate every single one of our pedestrian bicycle crashes. So anyways, we maintain this separate data set, and that's what I've pulled this data from. So that just gives you a bit of the context here. Again, doing Forsyth County, and again, doing the 21 through 24 time periods. We're talking about the same magnitude. So non-motorist crashes, and I've broken it down there in terms of how many were in Forsyth County during this time period. So 527 non-motorist crashes, and that breaks down to 411 pedestrian, 116 bicyclist, and those even are a little bit kind of general terms for so pedestrian would also include roller skaters, rollerbladers, people in wheelchairs, and those who are on what I've termed unpowered scooters, so just sort of, pedaling along, mostly kids doing that. Those kinds of things are all wrapped up in that pedestrian number. Bicyclists would, of course, be your standard bicyclist, but also other types of bicycles, and some of you might be more educated than I am on that sort of thing. And also just in in an attempt to try to put it somewhere, powered scooters. So the kind, yeah, I'm seeing some head nods there. So that kind of goes into there, and mainly just kind of trying to separate these modes by speed of travel, basically, kind of general, speed categories. So that gives you a little bit of context on what exactly is included here. And below that, the table shows, and I've got a graph in the next slide to show this visually, but just shows for these crashes, what was the highest level of severity to the non-motorist that was involved in that crash. No surprise, there will be lots of serious injuries. That's of course an unfortunate, very common thing with non-motorist crashes. This gives a more visual look. So on the left of the non-motorist involved crashes, what was that injury level? So this is showing in pie graph what was in the table before. Killed 7%, A level, or that serious injury level that we talked about, 18%. So really, with the K and the A being about a quarter of the crashes, resulting in a fatality or serious injury. For context, and I thought this question might come up, I just wanted to show how about for all crashes, not non-motorist crashes, just every crash in the state, and I pulled this for 2024. What does it look like when you break injury severity level down that way? And it's pretty different. I mean, we talk about general crash pictures, whether it's someone in a car running off the road, someone in a car hitting someone else in a car, everything that's part of that picture. It results in a fatality, for 1% of the crashes, A level injury at 1%. So it's a very different picture, which is why we have such a high priority on addressing our non-motorist crashes, even though numbers-wise they're a small portion of the overall crashes, but they're quite a bit overrepresented with injury severity, and that's why we focus on them specifically. I've got a few other things that just kind of give an idea of the situational contexts of these non-motorist crashes. So I'll just kind of flip through those and just kind of show you a few things that we've coded about these crashes. One is the general crash location. And so I'm talking about basically intersection versus non-intersection. And I've broken this out for ped and bike separately because they are kind of different. Intersection crashes are generally the larger portion of the bicyclist in the picture, but the minority of the pedestrian crashes. And I've got a slide a little bit later to show some of the specific crash types that we see when pedestrians are struck. Looking at the light condition, what was the light condition at the time of the crash? For bicyclists, it's actually more predominantly daylight, and I think a lot of this is, of course, influenced by when are people biking, when are people walking. I mean, we're not talking about in terms of risk factors or something like that, where you really need to kind of draw in things like exposure and how often out there. This is just a really, really basic descriptive statistics, just to show, kind of generally speaking, what is the light condition. Pedestrians about half and half, light to dark. And we do have a pretty sizable piece of that the officers indicated, or we could tell from what the officer put down, that the pedestrian crashes, 15% of them were in the dark and the roadway wasn't lighted, and so this is one of the things we look to do where we have pedestrian activity or safety concerns. Of course, roadway lighting is one of the things that we can do to the environment. Okay, so this is what I was referring to. I've just got kind of a frequency graph showing what kinds, if we just were to apply a kind of a general description to the kind of crash that occurred, what do we see? So I just did a frequency here of pedestrian crash types. I've got one on bicycles, the next slide. But you'll see a couple at the top that are kind of grouping there, crossing the roadway, either with a vehicle turning or not turning. So there's your intersection versus not. And obviously that's going to be the most common thing here. Also up there is unusual circumstances, and that is a catch-all because with pedestrian crash types, there are a lot more different kinds that can occur than you have with just, a vehicle running into another vehicle. So that's why you see unusual circumstances pretty high up there, a lot of things there. Dash and dart out is a crossing the road related type of thing. That's a little bit more specific. As you can tell, it's kind of when the pedestrian just darts out into the road. Sometimes can occur between cars that might be, or things that might be blocking the view, like on-street parking or something like that. I think that can be a pretty common one there. Walking along roadway is up there, and that's kind of probably the other big piece. And also not really surprising that we have, places where people are struck while walking along the road. And that could be that they're actually in the roadway, maybe there's no sidewalk, or it could be they're on the sidewalk or on the shoulder. That can happen as well. When we look at the bicyclist crash types, we've got really the predominant one being the motorist overtaking a bicycle, so occurring in the travel lanes, motorist overtaking the bicycle. Few ones there below that really related to the intersections, which is what we saw a lot in the breakdown of location. So we've got motorists making left turns, striking bicyclists, and then failure to yield on both parties at sign-controlled intersections. So those are the ones that kind of stand out at the top of that one. So these are categories that we put on there, or one of our contractors puts on there by looking at the description of the crash, what happened, and giving kind of a general categorization so that we can try to see what are some patterns and that sort of thing that are occurring. I think that is all I've got for you, but I'm happy to take questions or anything like that.
I have a question. Is there one particular of those categories that would encompass running a red light?
It could. So what we're doing here is we don't have one that codes whether the motorist ran the red light and then struck, let's say here, a bicyclist. That would definitely fall under motorist failed to yield. But we haven't gotten that specific in terms of the red light running. Saw something fly past the screen. I'm not sure if that was a comment or a hand or what.
Dan, how far back does this data go?
Yeah, so when I referred to this standalone kind of higher detail database, what I'm presenting here is 21 through 24, but it goes back to 2007. And we are continuing to update that. We're preparing 2025 right now. And once I stop doing all the screen sharing, I will put in the chat here the links where you can go. And this is publicly available. If you want to get this and do any kind of analysis yourself, you're welcome to do that. It does have the locations of all the crashes, like I mentioned. We've geolocated all of them. So if you want to do something specific, within even a certain area of Winston-Salem, great. But I'll put that into the chat here.
And the public can access this anytime they like?
Sure, yeah, we make, actually, well, while I'm here, let's pull a few things down into the screen so you can see. So one of the things that we do with our geolocated pedestrian and bicycle crashes is maintain a map. And I'll pop this in the chat in just a second, but we put a map, we make available the map. Again, this is everything that we've got, 2007 all the way to the most recent year we've got here. Where are you guys? Oh, my screen's just going nuts here. I don't know why it's doing that, but let's just do this. So there, you can see where each of these crashes have occurred, and yeah, that's publicly available. This is also the data behind it. The database is available to download. It'll just be a spreadsheet you can get and run graphs or do other kinds of analysis that you'd like to do. The other thing I'll put in there is we also have a dashboard, similar to the other one that I showed, but this is specific to pedestrian and bicycle crashes, and you can see trends, you can see common crash types, and again, just like the other one, you can narrow this down to a certain county or an MPO and a certain range of years if you want to get some statistics about that. So I'm throwing a lot at you there. I'll put a few in the chat, and you're always welcome to contact me if you've got other things you're wondering about, data needs or anything like that.
So that's available today, but what you showed us at first, you said you're working on?
And that's yes, that's still draft, still to come. If I gave you this link, you wouldn't be able to get there because it's not shared publicly yet. But we will be doing that here probably the next week or two.
Okay, so very soon. And it looks like over on the left-hand side, you can actually even filter it down to our city.
Yes, yeah. For this, I sort of just did for Scythe, but yes, you could do the stats here for too many cities to flip down through. Just for Winston-Salem itself. and see what it looks like there and all the. It takes give it 5 or 10 seconds to update. It's a lot of data. Give it a little bit of time to update the whole page, and then it'll show you the summary stats and trends and that sort of thing for that.
Well, this is wonderful.
Any explanation for that spike in speed-related crashes in January of 2022?
Nope, I noticed it too, and I was like, man, that's weird. No, I don't know. That's a little farther outside the COVID period where we saw lots of weird stuff we couldn't explain. No, that probably would bear some looking into because, let's be realistic. Sometimes you can have bad data and it's not actually something that's happening. It was because of, this or that. So, no, that one caught my eye as well.
Is there a way to compare cities or counties?
Compare cities or counties? Not with the tools and options provided in this arrangement. You're talking about maybe like overlaying 2 together or something like that. No, if I pick 2 of them here, it's just going to show the aggregate totals of both of them in the graphs. So pull up 2 tabs, I guess, and do each one, and then maybe take a look between them.
Got it. Thanks.
And I do plan on putting the data, the data that's backing this dashboard. I plan on putting a link to it so you'd be able to download it, and then you could do things like that. I'm a big believer in trying to make as much available for everyone to download as we can. It's more convenient for you, and honestly, less work for me. So, win-win.
Daniel, to that point about kind of comparison to other locations, how do you have a professional opinion or understanding, analysis, whatever, on how Forsyth County kind of compares to Guilford or Wake or other similar locations across the state?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Certainly have to go about it, and it sounds like you've got kind of the idea of going about it carefully to make sure that you either choose a pretty fair comparison or be able to normalize or standardize those metrics according to whatever way you want to choose, the population or VMT or something like that. Yeah, we don't do a lot of like kind of comparing one county to the next, though some county agencies or MPOs are very interested in doing that. Mm-hmm. One thing I would direct you to is the Crash Facts. It's a regular publication, annual publication that NCDMV puts out. Easily Googleable if you want to look for that, Crash Facts, and the one for 2024 was just published like a week or 2 ago, so you can find that. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because it does have the last half of it is every county has a page, and it's a lot of summary stats about each county. So if you wanted to compare counties, that would be a pretty convenient way to do it.
Okay, cool, thank you.
All right, does anyone else have any questions? Hearing none.
I've got a question. Carol, can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, go ahead.
Do you have data on this current year? Like what the fatalities are in Forsyth County?
Yeah. So I can go through. I've got through August loaded in here right now. There's usually some lag, some delay to get kind of all the data in and finalized and verified and all that sort of thing. So maybe around 2 months, month and a half, something like that is about the farthest I can go. So I've got through August loaded in here right now, and I can give you some sense of what that looks like. And I wish I would write the years correctly. There we go. Yep, month by month looks a little more normal here. Some things to be aware of, and this is just general education for you in crash data, so pardon me if you know some of this already, but things like this, look at the alcohol. Looks like alcohol-related crashes take a nosedive when we get toward August. I wouldn't trust that. Alcohol results are often delayed because particularly when there's a fatality, Of course, you can't get the breathalyzer kind of thing, and so you have to rely on a medical examiner to do the blood test and that kind of thing, and that takes time. So, some of the other ones are more on the spot. If it's speed related or motorcycle involved, obviously the police officer can say what that is. But yeah, be careful with the alcohol and drug ones; those have more of a delay in them. But you can see here at least some of the trends that we've been looking at. Looks like you kind of had a decrease in fatalities. Now these are fairly small numbers, so they're going to be more dynamic, but toward the summer and kind of later summer ticked back up.
When it says older drivers, what age is that? What's
65
considered?
plus. Oh, the other thing I should mention too is you're looking at any kind of crash related data is you can have, and here the primary graph I'm showing you is fatalities. This is essentially numbers of people who were killed. That's to be distinguished from the next graph I can click over to, which is fatal crashes as an event, a crash that involved a fatality. So a fatal crash could involve 2 or 3 or 4 fatalities. So that's just good for you to be aware of whenever you're looking at crash data. Look at what that unit is so that you know what you're interpreting.
Very good. Well, Daniel, this is excellent, very eye-opening. And you've given us some resources now that we can grab, and we'll quit bothering Ben to continue to go back to different websites to try to extract this information. So we appreciate you taking time to pull this together for us and to share it with us. And thank you.
Sure thing. Happy to do it.
And we'll look for the links in the comments.
I will do that right here. Sure thing.
All right.
All
And
right,
you're
thanks.
welcome to stay with us as long as you'd like.
Appreciate it.
So thank you again. All right. From there, we'll move to the minutes. They were sent out earlier today. I don't know if you all have had a chance to review those. We can pull them up if you have not. Would anybody like them pulled up?
I've read them and I move for approval.
Number one, out of the gate again.
Pointing.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Lisa.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? If not, I move for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Anyone opposed? Please say no or nay. Not hearing any, it was unanimously approved. Thank you. All right, next we'll move to a document that was sent to you last week. Consideration of recommendations for comfort and safety enhancements to the Twin City Trail. And I actually am going to turn this over to Amy. It was her idea to write this letter and to present it to the committee for us then to present it to the Department of Transportation. So Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you dig a little deeper into the background and what we're looking at.
Sure. Yeah, hopefully you all were able to peek at this document. Do I need to pull it up on my screen, or can we just kind of through it? Any requests to bring it up? Okay. Yeah, so the Twin City Trail has now been opened for a month and a half or so. Definitely getting a lot of folks out there and using it. We talked to a lot of people at the ribbon cutting and then at the walk and roll fest. I know a lot of folks in my circles of people walking and biking have also spoken to me about things. So I think as people are using it, they're gathering a lot of really good feedback about things that are working and things that are not. So I thought it would be a good idea for this committee to kind of do some work to evaluate those things and maybe put together a composed list for DOT, not as though they're not already thinking about these things as well. But as a advisory group to council, we'd love to be able to kind of raise some things up as kind of high priority or more urgent things, or areas we need to really work on addressing sooner rather than later. And so the way this is broken out is kind of general comfort enhancements, kind of best practices, things you want to see along a trail: benches, trash cans, shade trees, bike racks, art whenever possible. Then there's things that we would want applied across the whole trail, mainly call boxes whenever possible at whatever distance is feasible. People really appreciate having those. If you there's quite a few call boxes on the Long Branch Trail. I think that's the only one of our kind of greenway areas that has call boxes right now. But then also a lot more directional and informational signage. Given the nature of this trail and where it's located and all the kind of turns and intersections and different paths, it doesn't always look the same. There's a really strong need for good signage to help people navigate it. And then we listed out some very specific safety improvements needed at different locations. Again, because this is a really dynamic, interesting urban trail that goes through different kind of areas, there's different treatments needed. And so we tried to call those out by their location. And then the highlighted text was meant to be things that initial pass, me, Carol, thought were kind of more urgent items, and definitely things that impacted safety of people using the trail and interacting with trail users. So obviously, a bench is wonderful and could be seen as a safety thing, but some of these other ones highlighted here are definitely going to improve safety significantly. So we wanted to kind of emphasize those and try to, show our support for addressing those as soon as possible. And then, I would just call it in the conclusion that obviously this is a big list. There's a lot of different things on here. Everything costs money, takes time, but there are also some of these things that are pretty straightforward and not the most expensive thing and could be implemented pretty quickly. And so we really want to try to encourage those things to be done, and where possible, collaborate with community groups, private land folks nearby to the trail, however we can kind of move these things forward. So high level overview, really just looking to get input from the committee on how these land for you guys. Are there other things missing? One thing that just came to mind to me was, I'm not sure how this path is at nighttime. I haven't used it at night, but I doubt there's a lot of lighting on some of these areas. So that might be another enhancement we want to add to this letter before finalizing. So just really opening it up to everybody. If you have any feedback on additional things you've experienced or you've heard from people, or tweaks you would suggest to this, please share.
Hey, Amy, this is John Gunkel. Do you anticipate that they would take this thing, then basically prioritize from there, or should we give them, some kind of inkling on the priority?
I think the intention with the little highlighted text was just to say these are the things that we think are higher priority. But obviously the city is going to, determine what they think is the most important and feasible. Okay. But I think we wanted to, as a committee, provide some of our own, direction.
All right.
Yeah, Amy, I'll just say that this is super helpful to hear, what people are experiencing while using the path, and that we're looking at making some of these improvements. And some of them are longer term projects like signage, like shade trees, and other amenities. But yeah, definitely some of those shorter term safety implementations we're currently looking at. So.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, ideally, we would submit this letter to the department would come back to us with a response that says, we're working on A, B, and C. Here's a timeline, whatever type, so we could get feedback on those things. And I would also offer there can be short-term fixes and long-term fixes. Obviously, the city's been working for a while on the wayfinding signage initiative, and that's awesome, and that's going to take a while. But there's literally no signage whatsoever on the trail right now. And I actually had a friend who does marketing suggest, and he was not the only person, the pavement stickers. If you guys recall, when the ballpark opened and for other events, sometimes you'll see pavement kind of stickers on the ground. I don't know if they're geothermal, but they're outdoor. They last a year or more. They're pretty durable. And he got me a quote, and it seemed very reasonable. You know, not thousands and thousands of dollars, like $1,000 to mark the entire trail with something that people could follow along to. So I think we just want to put it out there that these are the things we're hearing and we would recommend, and see where the city is for taking next steps. And I'll note too, because I know Greg's probably going to say it, some of these areas are state DOT roadways or connected to, and that adds another layer of complexity, timeline, funding, whatever. And so I would also offer that, in my opinion, that doesn't mean we don't do anything. That just means we got to be more creative, and we got to keep pushing on our state partners to say, hey, this is an intersection that's really tricky, or this tunnel is whatever, and you know, apply whatever kind of pressure and resources we can to still make some progress. So I don't even want to add anything to that, Greg, but
No. You got it
definitely
right
factor.
there.
Yeah.
Good job.
So was there anything you guys felt was missing, or anything that was suggested that you were like, I just don't agree with that? Or
Thought it was a great job, Amy.
Have you made modifications to the original draft? Yeah, okay.
no, the only thing that, like I said, it just came to me when Daniel was talking about the lighting time of day when crashes happen. I thought,
Right.
I hadn't been out there at night. I don't know what the lighting situation. That would be a pretty easy one to add in as kind of like a general safety thing. You would want lights, but I might walk it. Or if anyone else has the opportunity to walk it in the next couple of days, maybe we can just see if there's a particular area that is really dark or is.
Yeah, I've been there, not late, but later, especially as now, you know, it's getting later or darker earlier, I should say. Over by High Street, as you can imagine, Brookstown, I guess, with that bridge there, that's not very well lighted. The bridge that goes to Muse, because of the roadway, there's a lot, it's more, you know, lighted in that area. Marshall part seems nice, really pretty good. There was nothing happening at the stadium, so that part was a little bit darker, but not dark because it is by the road. So I think the worst, to me, the worst or the darkest part is that High Street, kind of Brookstown turn right there.
Yeah.
It's kind of the visibility there's difficult anyway.
Yeah, it's difficult in the daytime and extra difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa, the city has submitted a request for Duke Energy to install a street light there down by that bridge where the trail kind of meets Brookstown. So I can get back to you on when that might happen.
So, Ben, I'm curious to know, it sounds like that based on what you read in the letter, there are a few things that the city's already doing. Is it possible for you to provide us, or even Amy and Carol, with a list of things that are being done and the timeline, so that it does appear that we've communicated? There's been a communication link, so we understand this is happening. And these are the additional things that we think are important.
Yeah, Don, I definitely think that's something I could do for you guys, is put together just what we've committed to already, and then what we're maybe doing some additional research on, or maybe what we're coordinating with NCDOT on.
Yeah, and I think that's the flow we would like. I mean, we could also get this to council, but I think what would sound nicer is if we as a committee submit our recommendations, our suggestions, our whatever, the city has an opportunity to then respond and say, we're working on these, and then if there's a need, then we could communicate to the council and say, hey, these are still the gaps and where we could use help, or look at the progress we are making with these concerns. But I feel like that'd be the ideal flow. So at this point, Madam Chair, I think we were just looking for input from the committee and hopefully a vote now or in the future to approve this letter, so it goes to Ben and team. Is that right, Carol?
Yes. So Amy, having said that, do we need a consideration for adjusting it for lighting?
I think we can definitely add a line item that just says, you know, increase lighting along the entire path. But to Lisa's point, maybe call out a few key areas that don't have any lighting that might need it sooner. Again, and it would be nice if it tracks, right? Where we say, hey, we want one at the intersection of, you know, the path and Brookstown, and then Ben can come back and report, yeah, that's been requested and we're going to get it installed, whatever. So if the committee is okay, we can vote contingent upon adding additional recommendations for the lighting. And that just be based on like Lisa's input, my walkthrough, whatever Carol wants to word in there, if you all are trusting.
I think I have a motion. Is there a second? John, second.
Hey, I don't know if this is a possible. Could we say something like, we'll give the committee 48 hours to make amendments, but we will approve a letter being sent in 48 hours, barring any changes or something of that nature?
It's fine with me. I mean, you just have to report it to Carol, and then if there was if it was a major change, we'd have to bring it back to the full. I imagine we'd have to bring it back to the full committee for consideration. So.
Yeah, I don't want to hold up our process by making amendments and having them sent back and forth.
Yeah. Well, Ned, if you need more time, I mean, I don't think we need to send this letter tomorrow. It's just, I think we wanted to send it before our next meeting in November. So if you wanted to look it over and then relay any feedback to Carol, as long as it's not a substantial change.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to have any, or anybody's going to have substantial changes. I don't want to delay. I don't want to delay the letter. I think that's my priority. But I do think we should probably add a few items about lighting and whatnot.
Was there anything else that you had specifically that was bubbling up, or?
No, not personally.
Okay.
But I know Carol's always thinking though.
So let
Hey,
me,
Ben, this is Greg. I wanted to ask whether I heard that the lighting on the bridges themselves, like Cherry and Marshall, I guess Liberty and Maine, that there was going to be lights installed on those. That's pretty close to being done. Is that right?
I'm not managing that project, but I could ask our engineer, Will Cave, is managing that project. I could ask him where that's at. I know that's coming in the near future. I just don't really know when that's going to be exactly.
I was wondering, I know it's unlikely, whether lighting on the multi-use path could be folded into that work there on the bridges related to Salem Parkway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if that's possible to include in the project, but I assume that some of the path will be lighted from those lights. So I can check on that for you.
Okay, thank you.
all right, I think I'm a little confused on where we are with the motion. Lighting sounds like the only thing that we're going to adjust to the recommendation. Is that correct? Okay. I think I see some head nods. So if lighting's the only thing, I think the original motion was that we would go ahead and add that and submit it if everyone was okay with the language that would be, that we don't need to check the language on what is being added, but we would add another bullet point on ensuring that the lighting is adequate for the trail. Is that correct? Was that your motion, Amy?
Yes.
Okay. And Was there a second for that? Greg, did you second that? I forget. Okay, so Greg has seconded that. Is that okay with you, Ned?
Yeah, that's fine. That's great with me. I vote
Okay.
aye.
Okay.
Well, and I'll say also, it's not impossible that we wouldn't want to come back as this continues to evolve and bring back additional recommendations or clarifications on our recommendations. So this isn't like a one and done. This is just a way to document our dialogue with the city. So
right.
If we come up with something else, I think we can always send more letters.
Yes, we can. This committee is good with letters.
But thank you. I do think there was a lot of good feedback gathered from folks, and I think putting it in one place will help us kind of keep track of progress in these areas.
I agree. And Amy, I appreciate you taking the time to pull all that together as well. All right. We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, it is unanimously approved that we will submit this letter once we add one more guidance on lighting to the document, and we'll get that submitted to the DOT. I don't know that I'll get that done in 48 hours because I'm leaving first thing in the morning and will not be back until Tuesday, so it'll probably be next week before that is accomplished. Just a side note there, since there was a mention of 48 hours. Okay, well, thank you for that. And again, Amy, that is much appreciated, all the information that you gathered for that. All right, so moving on to informational items. Number 5 is a reminder that the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Street bridges, the public comment period is still open. It is open through the 10th, which I think is this Friday. So if you haven't taken time to submit any comments on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Street bridges, I hope that you can do that. It is an open format and it's pretty easy just to look at the different design options that they have submitted or proposed for the bridges, and you can make your comments in that open box. And it's real easy to find online if you haven't been there. Just type in 3rd, 4th, and 5th Street bridge design, and I think it pops up. So it's pretty easy to get there. Next, Amy, would you like to provide an overview of the Walk and Roll Fest?
Sure. Seems like it was a year ago, but I guess it was about a month ago. Let me put this in the chat. I got some photos collected. All in all, wonderful event. We had beautiful weather and pretty good turnout. All of our community vendors came and set up along the path. We had a run, 5K fun run, children's like 1 mile fun run, a bike ride, guided walking tour that Carol helped facilitate. Lots of fun, interactions with folks along the path. There was a lot of people who would come to the event, and then a lot of people who were just out and about downtown or exploring the trail anyways, and got to, get some extra food from the food truck and whatnot. Definitely got a lot of feedback also from people who were using it, and especially in those challenging intersections, mainly High Street and Marshall. Complete mess, if I'm being honest, even with 2 volunteer traffic guards helping kind of get folks across. And at the same time, it was a good awareness builder for people who were driving through, because they were having to start looking out at crosswalks and paying attention for people, and maybe that will help at least those few people, be looking for other users. But a lot of other people were involved in making that happen. Shout out to Carol and Christy Williams of Creative Corridors, who cleaned the entire trail that day. Greg did a ton of cleaning in the weeks leading up to it along different areas. Mac and I marked the trail with 5K markings. Me and another person marked it with the Twin City Trail. There's a lot of support from the Creative Corridors Coalition who hosted the event, and I think it was just wonderful. So I don't know if anyone else attended, and I'm sorry if I missed someone else. Hosey, yes, Michael, you weren't there day of, but you had helped for weeks and weeks and weeks and donated a ton of very valuable supplies, including the National Cycling Center van, which was kind of our headquarters for storing things. So all in all, it was wonderful and appreciate everybody. Ned, you were involved. So appreciate all the contributions, and if anybody has feedback from attending. John, you helped mark the intersection for a while for us too, so.
And Ben manned a table the entire event.
Yes, I don't know if you got to talk to a lot of people, but hopefully you were able to connect with some users.
I was, yep. It was great to see people out there using the trail.
But yeah, take a look at those photos, and yeah, it was fun stuff.
It was a good time. And Amy, thank you for your coordination of that and Creative Corridors. All right, now we'll move into the work group updates. Anyone in particular want to go first?
I would like to nominate my colleague within the advocacy and partnership group, because he is a non-committee member, George, and I don't want to keep him too long after 5 if he does want to drop off. So George, if you're ready, if you want to share.
I am. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. So, yep. Thank you for including me. I'm going to share some updates from the advocacy group. So Amy, Ned, and Donna, and then Enme met with all our council people. And so just very quickly, almost everyone, with the exception of Robert Clark, seemed to have a fairly good understanding of the BPAMIC, and that it existed and roughly what they were working on. So starting with Councilwoman Scipio, she's fairly familiar with the committee. Eastward, familiar with the committee. She's previously collaborated on a AARP walk audit, so she's done a little bit of this sort of work. As far as her support for the committee goes, or for active mobility, she's a very strong advocate for multimodal transportation. She did emphasize, the need for equity as we invest and develop infrastructure, and then the importance of maintenance. As far as her engagement preferences go, she emphasized the power of public pressure, as in showing up to the council meetings. But one point she wanted to make was that it really helps to have folks show up to those meetings and say, hey, I'm using this new trail, or I'm using this thing the city built, and I really like it. Keep doing things like that, please. So she said, if we can round up people to say positive things every once in a while, that goes a long way. She also mentioned that getting a few people to call 311 when there's an issue, for instance, if there's not lights where there needs to be lights, or a trail's washed, suffering from erosion or something, just even a few people calling into 311 can sometimes get a lot more done than a more traditional political method. And she is interested in attending future committee meetings. Councilwoman Vivian Joyner, limited familiarity with the committee, but she knows some of you. She is a supporter of active mobility, believes it's important for our access to jobs, education, and health. She has an interest in tactical urbanism and infrastructure improvements like sidewalks and transit. Engagement preferences. She wants periodic updates highlighting goals and successes. And once again, she doesn't want just problems. She'd also like to hear about accomplishments. Scott Bowen, apparently he's a former committee member and is highly engaged, so sounds like a good advocate for us. One of his concerns he noted was the trail near the Little Creek Recreation Center. I'm not sure, I don't know that by name. He was saying that is poorly maintained, and he's worried that it's affected by people who are experiencing homelessness. James Taylor has a moderate to good understanding of your committee. He, as far as support goes, he advocated for trail connectivity. The example he gave was Salem Creek Greenway to Quarry Park. I put a question mark there because in my mind, those are connected with a short jaunt on Peachtree. But so I'm not exactly sure what he was specifically referring to there. And he also specifically mentioned improved pedestrian improvements, particularly the sidewalks through Winston-Salem State University. And as far as how to interface with him, he's open to letters or proposals. Robert Clark, as I said, limited knowledge of the committee. Ned sort of classified him as very much a dollars and cents guy, but he's very strong on sidewalks and safety and road design. He is worried about the cost of retrofitting infrastructure, but it sounds like, if a proposal comes to him and it makes sense fiscally, he'll be open to it. And he sees some potential in our committee helping navigate property owner resistance to greenway expansion, for example, along the Muddy Creek Trail. And then Donna met with, I believe, 2 council people, and I could not access her notes from our last advocacy meeting minutes, so I don't have those in front of me. But we did speak last week, and the takeaway is it doesn't sound like anyone is hostile to our mission, and is at least verbally willing to work with us. So. Ned, Amy, Donna, anything to add? I tried to skim through your notes.
Yeah, thank you, George. I think I would just add that to emphasize this was like a listening session, engagement stakeholders, what we're calling it. We really just wanted to gauge like where are they at? Do they know the committee exists, that it's there to serve them? How do they want to interact with us? Any special projects or things? So just really trying to build rapport with them and make sure they know we are here. And I really appreciate the feedback that they did give us, both like how the committee can help and also what are the things the public can do. And maybe those are things the committee can help educate the public on how to engage. But also just that I think we agreed as a working group, we wanted to continue with somewhat regular touch points with these council members. It can look like different things. It can be like, hey, we saw this greenway opened up in your ward, congratulations, whatever. It could be, please join our meeting. We're going to be talking about this topic that impacts your ward. Or it could just be, it's been 6 months since we talked and, whatever, just kind of trying to keep engagement with these folks. And then I think we also talked about, now that we have met with council, who are the other kind of big players in the city, sorry, not city government, but city populace, who, we would want to make sure we talk to, both as people who can support, more access and users walking and biking. So I think those are the 2 kind of outcomes we had from those meetings. But Ned and Donna, please add any other thoughts.
I thought that was a great summary. Thank you, George. Thank you, Amy.
You were welcome. Yeah, I mean, we have their ears. So if you want us to work on something with them, now's these next few months while they still remember who we are. So the time to do so.
Donna, you can add to this, but I remember you saying that one of the things that came up with one of the folks you met was that like we want to be as proactive and early in the planning stages as possible, because a lot of times when things come before council, they're making a decision, yay or no, nay. Are we doing this thing or are we not? And so wherever the committee can kind of be involved, working closely with DOT or other entities to try to pursue good policy and good projects and those things early on in the process, that really helps it so that by the time it gets to council, they can just approve it. So that was kind of one takeaway I think you had, Donna, from one of your folks. Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
Yeah, that came from Mayor Pro Temp Dee Dee Adams. One of the things that we kind of concluded was that it may be helpful to be aligned a little bit with the planning committee, because once things come in front of council, they're ready to make a decision. So the consultation piece would be more probably a little bit easier to move through a system if it's during the planning part versus at the end trying to change what's already being put before them to vote on. So it was just a thought, if we want to be consultants and impact, to do that. And both Mayor Pro Temp Dee Dee Adams as well as Councilwoman Regina Hall, they talked about big projects that are occurring in our city right now, like the grounds is one, because for Council Member Regina, she is also the executive director over a Boston Thurman. So thinking about transportation and safety as that project is coming along, it would be great if our committee would be a little bit forefront and involved in it now and think about traffic situations, accident, just having those assessments, consulting on that, because it will impact those that live in those neighborhoods. There's excitement about it, but the safety measure in terms of that transportation factor. And then for Mayor Pro Temp, one of the things that she mentioned was the amphitheater that's been approved. And getting in on it now, since it's approved that it's coming, but how does our group now influence transportation, safety, and all of that? Getting in on those things right now versus once they're complete. So those were, and it was really interesting because neither one of those projects are in either one of their wards. So the whole idea, which is good, they're not just thinking about themselves, they're thinking about city impact. And so their thought was to get involved in things early.
Those are great points, Donna. Thank you.
I'll just add this too, with especially specifically of the grounds. Wake Forest needs to be involved in those conversations. They tend to have a lot more resources and pool to really make things happen. Just like that crossing on Ronaldo, I think that happened by Wake Forest, maybe even on their dime. And Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think if they're involved, they've got a big stake in it with their students going back and forth across university and could be highly influential. And so it's just in that one particular project.
Yeah. So even if with something like that, that's where expanding our key stakeholders and engaging them around these type of things that are impacting our city, engaging them early where there's an opportunity to influence the output of the projects. I think that was really basic outcome from the meetings that I had.
I think the approach that you all have used to meet with the council members the very first go around was an excellent approach. So I applaud you reaching out to them and seeking information from them rather than presenting information to them. It sounds like in the future that has opened the window, and in the future we can present to them our accomplishments or our goals for the year. So opening the door this first time, I think, will make it easier for us and for them to reach out again in the future and share information with them. So, did you all meet with Barbara Burke too?
No, I did attempt to get on her calendar, but I have to admit there were things going on in my family, and I just decided that I think we had enough input. Okay. And she has information she can reach in if she needs to provide any input that she might want to provide.
Okay. I think she serves on the Transportation Committee or the Public Works Committee. So she is a valuable constituent for us to reach out to, I think. All right. Any other comments for the advocacy work group? George, thank you so much for gathering all that tabulating all that information and presenting it out to the committee. We appreciate that. All right. Lisa, Michael, do you want to give an update on the Education Committee? I think he's pointing to you, Lisa.
Okay. So Austin, Michael, Ned on the phone. We met last month. We are going to meet again next week. We're focusing on the World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims as an event to coordinate and try to make something happen. That's November 16th. It's the third Sunday. I did a little bit of research and drafted a kind of a release to publicity to distribute with a few statistics, which I will revise because we got new ones, about the event and what we could potentially do to draw attention to victims, whether injuries or deaths from road traffic or pedestrian, bicycle, mobility traffic fatalities, and salute them. We're meeting again next week. We didn't really, there's nothing specific at this point. I distributed, I think, Amy, to you and Carol, maybe the draft, which we can revise. But the idea is to have something for that day, where in the number of fatalities, I think we were going to bring sneakers. Ned, you might want to, I don't know if I had the right site, but a place where you have sneakers that you put on the steps of the city hall, and those signify those fatalities, and then those sneakers can then, or shoes can then be donated. And it's kind of a powerful event. I did find I think it was in San Francisco, a video of an event that they did there, of course, much bigger, but it was pretty moving. So we'd like to move forward with something there.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa, is this something that the city has agreed to sponsor and support, or are we still looking for a host to?
Yeah, that's where I don't really know the next steps on this. Like what we need to do to have something on that Sunday.
Okay. And then I think I brought it up with Ned on a different entity, but I think whatever y'all decide to do, at the very least, if it's possible to somehow engage with, especially someone who perished, their family members, to let them know this is happening. Sometimes the information will not be easy to find, but if there's ways to invite them to take part, I think that'll be really meaningful.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure what resources we have to try to find that, because it would be private information, or if there is another. I really don't know the avenues, like what would be the best way to. I mean, I know that how to get the word out to local media, but what's the best way to capture that? And then if there is somebody with the city or somebody whose ward that's in, or all of them could participate and talk about the city's dedication to improving safety for people in all modes of transportation.
Yeah, and that was the other thing, is I think making sure we invite the council to take part if there is a kind of like press release moment or something. And that's where I didn't know, is this something that the city DOT would want to partner in, or we need to find an external source to kind of spearhead it?
Yeah, Amy, I'm not sure at the moment. I can ask about how that might look for us, but I could definitely inquire about like an event permit, depending on where the event's going to be held or anything like that.
And I'm sorry, Lisa, other places that do this, what is their framework? Do they normally have, like, the city does it, or a local advocacy group does it, or who normally kind of spearheads
Well,
it?
the one I saw in San Francisco was the city did, but there were other groups involved that participated. Of course, it's a much bigger city, a lot more foot traffic there. And had families participate, school. I think there was a school involved. So, I mean, I can get more information, and our group is going to meet again next week, hopefully, to finalize some of this stuff. Because, I'm not quite sure. And I don't think, I guess then we have never done something like this here.
Not that I know of, no.
There are resources, there are groups in the state, and this originated overseas.
Yeah.
In England, actually, in Great Britain is where the first one was held and created. Not really that long ago, but to draw attention. to traffic safety. So I don't know, Ned or Michael, do you have anything to input on that?
Yeah, I guess, we'd even had the conversation, like, is this a formal something that we do as a committee, or is this something that kind of a group of citizens just do it? I don't, and maybe this isn't the place to talk, to put that out there to say it like that, but we really weren't sure, Lisa mentioned like what the next steps being, and how formal, I keep hearing the word event, which I guess I really hadn't thought of it as an event per se. Not to say it's not, I guess I hadn't thought of it like that yet.
Michael, the event or the activity in May where the
Rite of silence.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't think of it. What steps do you go through for that?
So Amy and I, we've worked together, and she's taken the lead last couple of years, but we engaged the police department, and they, we've used the same set route the last several years, and we engaged them to help us navigate the route through downtown. And we have, it's a pretty large group, people that have participated in the past, kind of on an email list that just get the notification, and we all just meet and a little bit of announcements, and then we just go out and ride as a group. It's a non-social ride, so everybody typically wears white, and you just kind of our presence in such a large group. We've had anywhere from, it's typically at least 60 people, I would say 60 to 80. So when we're riding, we always go down 4th Street, and all the people sitting outside eating restaurants. I mean, we turn a lot of heads, and we have a banner, like I use the bicycle banner that I pull behind on the bike, and kind of tells everybody what it is. So it's silent. So literally it's just people observing and then reading the banner. And, I think all those involved, I'm sure they talk about it in their circles outside of the event.
No press releases or speeches or
I send a
anything
press
like
release, the same one every year. Yeah, we've been doing it for so many years. It's kind of nice and plug and play. But I would say just 2 things to add to Michael. That is an event that you expect and want public participation in. And so it's vital that you have hosts that can gather people. And so the fact that it's formally hosted by the National Cycling Center and Beers and Gears, which both have a following and people that run those organizations, helps people turn out. So I would only offer that if for the World Remembrance Day, if you want it to be an event where people attend, you're going to need some external host to help solicit people to join. And I would personally recommend not trying to make it a public event that you want people to come to. Like maybe a future year, we could do a walk of remembrance or a ride of remembrance, whatever we could do. But for this one, I like the idea of something a little more informative and remembrance. I like the shoes, that could be something the media would pick that up. I just got to say that if you put the press release out in enough time, they'll attend. And if there was something a little more of just kind of a press moment for if you had any families impacted by these fatalities, wanted to speak and tell their story, if there was someone from council or DOT that would speak to efforts to make things safer, and just kind of make it like a 30-minute public thing that then hopefully the news picks up. I feel like that would be a super successful start, and you wouldn't necessarily need to solicit a ton of other partners. Hopefully y'all's planning group with the support of us and other people could make that happen. But that's just that's my thought as someone who's done a lot of these events and is thinking about all the little pieces that go into making anything happen.
Right.
But I do appreciate that y'all are committed to doing something, because I do think it'd be great. And I would love to see the city contribute in some way, whatever that is, to be present and to be talking about what we're doing to make things safer.
I think this discussion has been very good and hopefully helpful for the education committee.
So for next steps, we meet next week. Should we then reach out to you, Ben, and just see if it's, if we can kind of go along the lines of what Amy's recommending or suggesting, to find out if we can have some council people participate. Like what is the avenue to make that happen?
Yeah, I can attend your meeting next week, and then we can just kind of discuss
Mhm.
details and work that stuff out.
Okay. Oh, awesome. That'd be great.
And Lisa, do you know what's the ballpark number of at least fatalities you are remembering in the last year?
Well, I have the numbers that Daniel showed us were for 4 years.
Right.
I had like 17 or 18
Okay.
in the last year, but I don't know if that's correct now because of the tiers of injury, serious injury versus fatality. I
Yeah.
have to look back at and then Carol had sent me very similar stats and this was Forsyth, not Forsyth County, Winston-Salem.
That's
Yeah.
Winston-Salem.
We could make it Forsyth County if that's better, but then I didn't know if we'd have to have county, you get county involved or city.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I
what,
think start smaller. I was just going to say that there should be a crash. Most of these fatalities happened because somebody hit somebody and injured them. And there
Mhm.
would likely be a police report, which you could maybe glean something from. But if it's a long list of people, unless someone's got hours to sleuth, that's probably not doable. But I was going to say, if it's
Right.
like less than 10, someone might be able to sit down and see if they couldn't pull
Mhm.
some public
Right.
information. But
right.
even if you don't know the exact people and their names and their family members, I think it's still worth doing.
Mhm.
But that was awesome.
Right. But, and I
This-
also was thinking two different ways is there's two downtown community groups on Facebook. And then there's the next door, which there's engaged people. Even to say Remembrance Day for any fatality. I think that you might even get people from that who know somebody.
Mhm.
Just because there's been a lot of activity downtown lately, especially at Marshall Park. And there's a lot of chatter about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not
Didn't
necessarily.
Daniel give us the statistics for Winston-Salem for this year up until August?
He showed it on the screen, but we also have links now to the data that he reviewed with us, so we can easily pull it up.
Yeah.
Well, and y'all can, as a group, determine how are you bifurcating it? Are you saying in the last 12 months? Are you saying in the last year? Or do you just want to remember all the people? Like, you got to kind of figure out what's, I don't want to say sample, but what segment of people are you calling attention to right now versus just a generalized, like, this stuff
Right.
happens and we have to make improvements. But
And the World Day of Remembrance in general, from their publicity, is not just about fatalities. It's about
Right.
injuries, and it's also about the emergency workers who do the hard work of helping in those situations.
well,
And
that could be another
recognizing
partner
them.
then that could be at this press release moment,
Mhm.
is an EMS worker who can talk about, whatever. One quick thing, sorry, 'cause I know we're almost at time, but we're gonna meet on November 12th. What day you said it's the 16th?
18th?
The 16th is it's the third Sunday of November.
Okay.
So it's the 16th.
Yeah, I would only just say it doesn't seem like we'll have a BPAMIC full committee meeting. We'll just have that one that's kind of right near all this. So do communicate updates as Carol allows with the committee. I would love to know what you guys are doing and how we can help and volunteer and stuff.
All right. I'll do a real quick update for the policy plan and project team. We did not present today the infrastructure design standards for greenways. We hope to have them available ahead of time for everyone to review and to vote on those in the November meeting. So we're still working on a few of the edits to the document. And we're moving on to sidewalks on both sides of the street. That's the easiest way to say it. So we've split up the cities that we reviewed the last time, updating the information. I did find one city that had done a refresh on their UDOs. So we're pulling in any new information and then we'll make comparisons, and hopefully that won't take too long and we'll have something to carry on to the planning department. we are at 5:29. I'll ask you all to take a look at the upcoming events at the bottom of the page. And Ben, you are going to do project updates.
Sure, yeah, Carol, I'll be quick here. Two main projects I have coming up that I'd like the community to be aware of. One is the Salem Creek Greenway flooding issue that we're trying to resolve. The city has selected a consultant to design a few different options for crossing the stream at that location that will basically eliminate the flooding issue. So as that progresses, I'd like the committee to have some input on that. And then the Long Branch Trail to Wake Forest to the grounds development, that section of trail will be studying kind of routes through that neighborhood, ways to connect those two trails together and provide a continuous trail from really Wake Forest all the way to downtown. So really would like to have the committee's input on that as well.
So when you say you want the committee's input, is that once the information comes out and we review it, or are you looking for us to go out?
You know, I think there's going to be, especially for the Long Branch Trail Connector project, going to be some public input. So I think the committee can weigh in at that time, but then also just be on, maybe have a couple of committee members on a steering committee to look at some of the route options of that project as well.
So you'll be bringing route options to us to look at, or?
That's right, yep.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I just needed a little clarity there. All right, any questions for Ben? And both of those projects are great to be working on, so thank you. All right, does anyone have anything else? It is 5:31. Very good meeting today. Thank you all for your participation. And with that, we will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought we went till 6. I didn't mean to go on for so long.
No, that's okay. Next month in person. It will be till 6. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
And Ben, I'll
Bye.
send you the info for our meeting next Wednesday if you can participate.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.